Watch this seemingly trivial scene from Hereditary.
Call the police.
Oh, the police can't help us.
Who the is that up
Do you
there?
remember Joan? My friend, her grandson died. She took me in her apartment.
It did look like your
No,
mother.
listen, she taught me how to do the seance. I didn't even want to, but she brought her grandson back, and I saw it and felt it just like you did with Charlie. Now look, this is my mother's album. Now look here.
The way this scene is played out, blocked, and filmed is fascinating, but also very telling of Ari Aster's directorial style and approach to filmmaking. Why does he choose to stay on Gabriel Byrne's character and not cut to Toni Collette's character, something that would surely highlight her emotional performance and help this moment of exposition? This is a staple of Ari Aster, and it makes me wonder, why do his films look and feel this way? The immediate thought would be that this is a matter of exposition. Any cut in any film is made to mainly drive the story forward, create rhythm, but also provide new information. An editor makes a cut to tell us this is where we're supposed to be looking, and usually where we're supposed to be looking is also the most important place in terms of the larger overarching story. A very simple example would be the cut that we just saw. The editor goes from this frame to introduce this character and provide some general information and exposition about them. We then refocus to Alex Wolff's character. A refocus is not a cut, of course, but it serves the same purpose here in order to provide information that he is attracted to this character. However, in this scene, Ari Aster and cinematographer Paweł Pogorzelski, as well as editor Jennifer Lame, presumably break this rule as they keep focus on Steve and not Annie. So either Steve's reaction to what Annie is saying is more important than whatever she is saying, or it's simply more interesting to look at him in this particular moment. Or it's a matter of pace. Now, I think all three reasons are true at the same time, but none of them are key. I think Ari Aster chooses to stay on this specific character in this specific moment because, yes, it's a more unique perspective, because it does provide further information about the character, and because the rhythm of the film is better this way. However, I think he chooses to stay on this character mainly because, well, Ari Aster just doesn't really seem to like cuts. Wait, Mickey, why would Ari Aster not like cuts? Well, one could argue it would be to make the film feel more immersive. However, a cut doesn't actually make a film feel less immersive. There is an argument to be made that a single take feels more naturalistic because, well, we do not cut from angle to angle when we lead life and watch life with our own eyes, so a continuous shot must feel more lifelike, right?
Hey, Bill, can anyone just join in? Oh, you're an American, just...
I think it's actually exactly the opposite, and I adore one takes, but the reality is that the concept of cutting from angle to angle is so ingrained in us as moviegoers that eliminating that concept actually makes the film feel less immersive. We never really actively notice a cut, but we do usually notice when there is no cut. So I don't think this really is the reason why Ari Aster doesn't cut much. Ari Aster builds worlds. He crafts images in those worlds and uses the camera to guide us through those images rather than create them. The camera and the edit assist what is already there. The cinematography Aster directs is wide, incredibly rich with detail, and inviting. Mostly every shot is given time to breathe, as mostly every shot is an open door into this unique environment that Aster is creating. And you're welcome to step in. The editing is minimalistic. Each cut comes only when necessary, and so each cut hits hard. This is especially important for horror, a genre which more than any relies on pace and tempo to build story and engage and surprise the viewer. What all this does is it creates a sense of voyeurism to Aster's work, which is peculiar because his films, especially Hereditary, feel very immersive. And yet, I think there is a level of distance between the viewer and the film. Usually, I'd say this is a con. I'd say that in such cases, the filmmaker has failed to create a cohesive world and a cohesive story within this world. But in Aster's case, I think this is actually the strongest quality to his films. The wide cinematography, the slow pace, and the quiet rhythm do all help greatly to build this feeling, but in the core of all things, Aster's films feel voyeuristic more so because of the complexity of the story. Aster does not underestimate his audience. I would go as far as to say that, for a lack of a better expression, Aster does not tell stories, he builds stories that he films. Everything we need to connect the dots is there on screen. Everything we need to connect the dots is beautifully arranged and masterfully composed. We've been invited to watch and follow the breadcrumbs, but understanding is our job. Aster showcases the story in an intimate and vulnerable way so that it does feel immersive, but it is up to you if you want to go any further. My favorite shot in Midsommar is actually the opening shot. And I was amazed upon a rewatch to realize that the opening shot of Midsommar is in fact the entire plot of the film in its opening frame. So the story is already there. The world has been built. Now we'll navigate our way through it. Ari Aster works like a painter. He seems to trust in the power of an image on its own. No cuts or twists or flips always necessary. What is there already in the world speaks volumes. This also highlights that voyeuristic feeling as we're looking at a still and complete world through a neutral lens. In Hereditary, Annie is a miniature artist. Her miniatures also reflect on real things we see in the film. This also happens in Midsommar, and when her husband sees her recreate the death of her daughter in an art piece, she says this.
Jesus Christ, Annie. You're not planning on letting him see that, are you?
Who?
Peter. How do you think he's gonna feel when he sees that?
What? It's not about him.
Oh, no?
No, it's a neutral view of the accident.
I think this is in some ways how Ari Aster sees himself as a director. He crafts the story stylistically and then distances himself directorially to let it breathe. This allows his films to have a more documentarian, almost journalistic feel, which provides further depth and realism to the plot. Of course, this is also paradoxical. Annie can't provide an objective point of view on a piece of art she's created. She is the artist, after all, and similarly, Ari Aster's decision to directorially distance himself in order to let the story breathe is a directorial decision. I personally think that the best film director, not my favorite, but the best in terms of talent, is Stanley Kubrick, because of the detail that his films contain. I mean, it is truly insane and deserving of its own essay someday, but the gist is that Kubrick's real story is always layers underneath whatever we're watching. These immensely complex stories that Kubrick manages to create through every single tool that he can get his hands on, may it be script or lenses or makeup, are truly incomprehensible. And I think, dare I say, Ari Aster is headed down a similar path. Each of his films is really about something different. Hereditary poses as a film about a demon possession, but is really about suffering. Midsommar poses as a film about a cult, but is really about breaking up. Beau is Afraid poses as a film about journey or mental illness, but is really about the relationships that men have with their mothers. Each of Aster's films also contains a spectacular amount of detail and layers to each frame or line of dialogue. And Ari Aster's works have been getting more and more complex. Hereditary is seemingly his most straightforward feature, and even that's already tremendously layered. So, comparing the style and level of commitment of Ari Aster's first few features to one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, I think if Ari Aster continues to grow as an artist and develop his directorial style in the right direction, it's entirely possible that in a few decades, Ari Aster might have one of the best filmographies in cinema history.
Oh, one of the most extraordinary new voices in world cinema, right here. Yep.
Thank you so much for watching this video essay, it really means the world. And please remember to like the video if you've enjoyed it. We have 3 more video essays coming out in December, so don't forget to also subscribe. Thank you all, I love you all.